It's been a very tough week for conservative Christians. Just consider the two major Supreme Court rulings that came down recently. We just found out Donald Trump can't deport 700,000 DACA recipients on a whim because his administration didn't fill out the proper paperwork. That was a 5-4 decision, with John Roberts joining the court's liberals. And on Monday, the Supreme Court voted 6-3 to say anti-discrimination laws that protect employees on the basis of sex also apply to gay and transgender people. Those 6 included the liberals, John Roberts, and Neil Gorsuch, who was basically raised in a Federalist Society lab to be a perfect conservative judge. It's like all the bigotry those conservative Christians have worked towards for years, and all the Trump BS they reluctantly tolerated in exchange for a couple of Supreme Court seats wasn't worth it. One guy who's especially upset about that transgender rights ruling is Kevin DeYoung, a pastor and board chairman for the Gospel Coalition, an evangelical Christian website. He is so mad that his side lost a major culture wars issue, even when, on paper, he thought evangelicals had the Supreme Court locked up for decades. But don't worry, he has a plan to fix everything. Here's a culture war strategy conservative Christians should get behind. Have more children and disciple them like crazy. Strongly consider having more children than you think you can handle. You don't have to be a fertility maximalist to recognize that children are always lauded as a blessing in the Bible. The future belongs to the fecund. It's time for happy warriors who seek to renew the city and win the culture war by investing in their local church, focusing on the family, and bringing the kingdom to bear on the world, one baby at a time. Wow! First of all, good luck finding a scarier phrase than fertility maximalist. His argument is basically that evangelicals just need to have lots of children and raise them to be culture warriors. Just outbreed everyone and the gays will lose. That is such horrible advice for so many reasons. Let's go through some of them, since this guy clearly did not. Believe it or not every woman is a clown car waiting to be opened up. Who knew? Saying women should give birth as much as possible is another way of saying they have no value to you unless they have tons of children. What if they're infertile? What if they don't want any kids because they're too busy being missionaries? What if they only want 1 or 2 because that's what they feel God is telling them they can handle? Are all those people somehow bad Christians to this guy? Same deal with men. Apparently, to DeYoung, their self-worth is wrapped up in their ability to find a wife and become an ultra-inseminator. There. Ultra-inseminator. I did it. I beat fertility maximalist. You're welcome. It's such a weird demand to make of other people, especially because I'm pretty sure Jesus only had 3 or 4 kids, tops. And saying couples should have a bunch of babies is meaningless without talking about how they're gonna take care of them. Do you know how much money it takes to raise 1 kid? Now raise triplets. Now raise a dozen of them. Kids. Not triplets. That's too many. Or just imagine you're the Duggars. Sorry. Think about the cost of diapers and food and college and the therapist you're going to need because you will go insane, and your eventual divorce lawyer, since you won't be able to spend any more quality time with your spouse until you're on your deathbeds. Jeff Bezos doesn't have enough money to raise all those kids, much less people with lower or middle class incomes. My point is, don't tell Christians to just go have more children. It's also not fair to the other kids, because if there's one thing we know about large families, It's that the oldest kids basically function as parents to the youngest ones because even two parents can't handle everything. That's not the kid's job. But let's get to the most obvious challenge to DeYoung's idea, and the one I'm sure a lot of you were thinking about the second you heard it. This guy seems to think that if conservative Christians have 1,000,000 babies, that will lead to 1,000,000 more conservative Christians. That's not how it works. I mean, go click the like button if you're someone who no longer shares your parents' religious views. By the way, I'm not just saying this. I can put numbers to it. In 2015, the Pew Research Center asked people about this. In what religion did your parents raise you, and what religion are you now? If DeYoung is right, we should see a perfect match. But since there's a lot of data, let's just look at cases where both parents were Protestants. What happened to their kids? Only 79% of those children said they were still Protestant. And we don't even know if that means they're devout. Maybe some of them just call themselves Christian, but they don't really care. But the other 21% definitely do not believe what their parents did. It is utterly idiotic to think your kids will grow up to be just like you. I know parents sometimes hope for that, and it might happen. I've seen Donald Trump Jr., but it's definitely not always the case. Kids will rebel, they will challenge you, and they may end up holding beliefs that are completely different from yours. And that's especially likely when you believe a lot of really stupid, irrational, bigoted things, like Kevin DeYoung and other white evangelicals like him. If you're trying to raise 1,000,000 culture warriors, I promise you, you are going to end up with a lot of very vocal atheists. Outbreeding people to win the culture wars is the sort of Hail Mary pass you throw when you realize you have no chance of persuading other people of your beliefs. DeYoung can't convince adults he's right. He definitely can't convince young people to discriminate against LGBTQ people. His only option is to brainwash children before they're old enough to think for themselves. It's so damn desperate. And I just want you to consider this. If a Muslim leader said the exact same thing about Islam, we need to have lots of kids to spread the faith, what do you think DeYoung's reaction would be? I have an idea. On a side note, the image used with DeYoung's article, which they never talk about on the website, is actually a painting from the 14th century of a classroom at the University of Bologna. I guess it's meant to show how you can train people to think like you. Maybe that was the intention. But the funny thing is that you can see students in this classroom chatting and reading and daydreaming and just looking like they hate life. It's like DeYoung made our point for us. Listen, if the only reason you're having children is because you hope and pray they will grow up to be as bigoted as you are, please don't have kids. Just take some time off, read a book, a different one, and find better things to believe. By the way, this video was sponsored by Germania, and he has this video, How My Faith Almost Killed Me, where he tells the story of how he nearly died due to his belief in faith-healing preachers. It's a fascinating story, and the link to it is in the description. Be sure to check it out.